So I'll just quickly introduce myself, and Emily will also introduce herself. So I am Giulia Hoffmann. I am Associate Director of Graduate Career Development in the Career Center, but I work with all students, not just graduate students. And I am here for any of your questions that I'm really excited to present to you.
Great. And I'm Emily Shin. I'm the Assistant Director for Chancellor's Associates. So for all of you who have received the Chancellor's Associates Scholarship, my team and myself are the ones that are responsible for fundraising for that. So very nice to meet you all, and welcome to UC San Diego. I just hope you become familiar with my name, because you will be hearing from me at some point. There's a lot of great opportunities for you guys to meet with donors, be able to thank them in person, and it really goes a long way to helping us fundraise even more dollars for the scholarship in the future. The only other thing that I do tell students about meeting donors, and it's something that not a lot of them know about, it is secretly kind of a networking opportunity for the students as well. Obviously, for donors who are able to donate to the scholarship, they're giving anywhere between $10,000 a year or more. So a lot of them are very well off and well established in their careers. They love meeting with students, and oftentimes it's a great way to meet with people, network, try to find people in industries that you're interested in at higher levels. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. And I apologize, I'm on my iPhone today because I'm having some Zoom issues, but I'm glad I was able to hop on. So it's nice to see everybody.
Thanks, Emily. And yeah, I will say too, just kind of raise your hand or something if you can't hear me. At some point, my internet has been a little bit odd as well. But I do want to reiterate Emily's point about networking. We will talk about that a little bit later. And absolutely, consider those donors. I mean, think about it. Like, they could give their money anywhere. They could just hold on to it. We hear more and more of the holding on to it part, nowadays. And so they really, really invest in this program because they truly believe in it, and they believe in you. So it's a really great starting point to get to know them and see if even if they're not in the industry you're interested in, maybe they know somebody who is. So really consider them to be part of your first network in reaching out. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started. So this is more of a kind of a question. Emily's going to read out a question, and if you can just, if you're muted, if you could, let's see, I'm trying to think. Maybe I'll unshare right now so we can just get so we can see people. So if you can, so Emily will read out the question. If you wouldn't mind turning on your cameras for just a second. Actually, no, I'm sorry about that. We're recording, so I don't want you to have to do that. If you can instead raise your hand, maybe do under reactions, you can see either a thumbs up or a clap. So if you choose one of those, if that applies to you when Emily reads the question.
Yeah, so the first question is, are you a first year or a transfer student? So if you're a first year, give a thumbs up. And if you're a transfer student, you can do the clap under reactions. Okay, perfect.
Cool. Okay, great.
So we've got, I think, a lot of transfers.
Transfers looks like, yeah.
Great. And then how should we do this one? What do you want to do when you graduate? So I guess for this one, feel free to unmute yourself if you want to say the answer. If you want to chat it, that's great too. Do you know what you want to do after you graduate? And a few examples are find a job in your industry, go to grad school, take a gap year, start your own business, whatever that may be, or maybe you're unsure. Chat may be the best option for this one.
Oh, is it okay to do voice?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay. Hi, my name is Maddie. I wanted to do grad school because my biggest goal is marriage family therapy, and I know, or getting the master's, and hopefully like doctorates would be amazing. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Maddie.
Anyone
Okay.
else?
Yeah, anybody else want to volunteer what you're thinking of? And it could also be you have no idea. That's very common. Okay, so Priscilla, not sure, but I do see myself going to grad school. And then Jennifer, start my career and or attend grad school. Great. Let's see if I've missed any others. Okay, any others? Okay, great. Perfect, thank you. So I'll go back to sharing my screen. Let's see. Okay. So you'll see I have some kind of prepared remarks, so to speak, or I have some things to go through. I have a little bit of a script, and that's mainly to keep me on track. It's not so much that this is very formal, but if I'm given the chance, I'll talk way too long, so I have more notes to keep me on track. If you have questions along the way, you know, and I'll give some time to kind of pause and ask for questions, feel free to either just unmute yourself and ask, or put them in the chat, and Emily will kind of interrupt me and say, hey, there's a question here. So I wanted to start out with talking about career planning in college. I know that for some of you, if you are, you know, an incoming freshman, that might feel pretty far away. If you're an incoming transfer, maybe that feels a little closer. But I do want to emphasize that for all college students, it is very helpful to start early, and whatever early means to you, you know, honestly, right now is not too early. So it's good that you're on this this presentation. Coming to the Career Center is very helpful, and you don't have to have like a specific topic in mind with the Career Center. You don't have to come in and have a resume ready by any means. We help everybody from, I have no idea what to do, help me get started, to people knowing where they want to go. So don't feel like you have to have anything prepared to come in. But I will say that every summer I have so many advising appointments with students and alumni who didn't go to the Career Center during their time here, and now they're really stressed out because they waited the whole time. So don't be one of those students. Please, you know, just make sure you take advantage of our services as soon as you can, knowing that we're here for you at every single stage, and there's no, you know, barrier or something you have to do in order to access us. Another thing that we recommend, in addition to like finding or starting early and talking to people, getting to know people, I always recommend socializing, essentially. So join student organizations. You know, talk to people in your classes, even if it's over Zoom right now. This is really a way to form your future network. You never really know where people are going to end up. I mean, some of my closest friends from college are people who I reach out to now in my career advising sessions with my students, and I say, hey, my student's interested in whatever career my college friend's interested in. Would you have time to talk to them? So think about how you can do that for yourself. You know, just make friends and then know that you can come back to them, or they might come back to you at some point. Same with talking to your professors, especially if you want to go to grad school. It's so important to get to know your professors, both your TAs and your professors. So make sure, you know, yes, it's important to get to know them in discussion sections. Typically those will be your TAs. But for larger classes, it can be much more intimidating, but it's also very important you get to know your professors. They are really the ones who will write the letters of recommendation that stand out if you want to go to graduate school. TAs are very helpful for mentorship, and they can also write those letters, but I will say, you know, from experience, the letters that count come from professors. And also professors want to get to know you too. You know, most of the time they're just kind of doing research in their own little vacuum. So they, you know, I know when I used to teach, I loved it when students came to my office hours. And again, it's weird because it's virtual, but in a way it's actually easier to make personal connections. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple of slides. And finally, just take some time every once in a while for reflection. So what are some things that you're learning about that you think you want to continue on in the future? And what are some things that you hate doing, that you never want to take another class like that again? You just got through it and that's it. You never want to look back. It's just as important to know what you don't want to do as what you do want to do, because a lot of times people will focus on, in their career search, oh, I can do this thing, therefore I must do it. But then we find that people are less invested in their roles. They got a job that they feel they can do, but they actually are not very interested in it. So think about both your interests and your skills, and that can really help set you up for success. Are there any questions at this point? No. Okay, great. Okay, so I wanted to go over just some information about the Career Center itself. So we can, like I said, provide you information and help at any stage of your career search. We have advising appointments, so that could be either appointment-based, which is 30 minutes, or you can just drop in. And we're still having all of this online, so we're available all summer, throughout the entire school year. All you do is you go to Handshake, and so the link there is at the bottom of this slide. And you can either sign up for individual advising under appointments, or you can go and look at our events and look for drop-in advising that way. Again, we're doing this all virtual, so you totally have access to that. Some of the things that people come to us for questions about, again, it's like how to find a job or how to find an internship. And of course, I'll talk about that a bit today, but it can be really helpful to have that individualized, personalized attention in your search. In addition to our advising, we also have resources for applying to professional and graduate school. So we have a grad school fair typically every year. We have lots of career fairs. Again, we're doing all of this virtually, this year, at least for this foreseeable future. So you won't miss out on any of those opportunities. We have a lot of events with employers. So again, now it's virtual, but employers are having virtual information sessions and virtual networking sessions. They get to know you. So lots of opportunities to get to know people, get to know potential employers, and we just really hope you take advantage of it. It's all free and available to you. Just go to ucsd.joinhandshake.com and set up your profile there, or you can also go to career.ucsd.edu, and we have a lot of information there. Any questions about any of this right now? No. Okay. And stop me if I'm going too quickly too. So we have another kind of poll question. So maybe I'll go back to stopping the screen share. And if you have a resume, so we're curious about how many people have a resume already. So if you do, then click the thumbs up button. Okay. Okay, good to know. So, and thank you for being honest too, because sometimes people are like, yes, I have one, but I don't want to feel bad. That's okay. So for people who don't have a resume, I know that I did not have one when I think I had a very, very basic one, maybe that I'd used for a high school job or something, but I didn't feel prepared for that at all when I started college. And that's, again, something that we can help with at the Career Center. Let me share my screen again. I will talk about this a little bit in a moment. So I will go over some basics for resumes because I wanted to just give a basic introduction. But I also want to really emphasize that there's a lot of information about the resume. Even if you just Google it, you'll see so many things. And it can be really, again, it can be very personalized based on your own interests, based on the jobs you're looking at, sometimes even based on the specific company. And it's even harder to think of if you don't know where you want to go yet. So again, I just want to keep plugging, make an appointment with us or go to drop-in advising. Don't feel like you have to have it all figured out by yourself. We'll help you get there, and then we'll help you put those pieces together and figure out what you want to highlight in the resume. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I don't want to like overwhelm you with information. I do want to give you a framework, but I also want to say, like, I'm just going to give a basic overview, and this is something that you can get a lot of help with from us at the Career Center. So basically the way to think of a resume is essentially, it's like an advertising document for your experience, for your skills that fits in with the role that you're applying to. So what I mean by that is it doesn't have to be just paid work. So I know a lot of times people come in and they're like, I want to apply for an internship, but I'm in this bind because I don't have a work history. So how am I competitive if everybody I know has had an internship? First of all, it sounds like everybody's had an internship already. It's, most people we see have not had that information, or that internship, so don't feel intimidated if people are bragging about the internships they've already had. Second of all kinds of experience counts. So when we help people with resumes, we help you include things like maybe what you've done in your courses, maybe projects you worked on, volunteer work you've done, maybe you've put together your own website or something. All of that is experience, and employers aren't necessarily going to say, oh, but was it paid, formal paid work experience? They just want to know, do you have the skills to do the role that they're looking for? And often, if you are looking at internships, employers know that it's a training internship. They're not going to expect you to have all the skills ready for them just from the get-go. So just keep that in mind. But what the resume does is it represents the experience that you do have, puts it there for the employer, and shows them, okay, I have, at least I have the skills and experience needed that if I were to start this internship, I'd be able to do a good job. It would take me some training and of course some time to get used to it the first few weeks, but I would be able to do the work that hiring manager would be asking of me in this internship. It's basically what the resume does. It just kind of lets them see you have enough there to invite you for the interview and then get to know you more and see how your skills and experience can be a match for what they're looking for. So the bullet points are really important here because you're basically using them to explain to the potential employer how you have the experience that would allow you to do the work they would be asking you to do. And like I said, this is just a very basic overview. What I have here on the right-hand side is just an example of what it could look like. You'll see we have a summary noted here. That can take, that's kind of like an overall, kind of like an overall very, very short bio of who you are and what your experience is in relationship to the role. And it can be really tough to write, as you can imagine. So it's everything here we can provide help with you writing that. And we have some more resume resources on the Career Center website at this link here. I'm not sure if you can access this link. So when I send when I send the slides, let me go back. When I send the slides, then you'll have the link there embedded in the slides.
It looks like Jay just sent it out too.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. Okay, so I know that was like a very quick overview of the resume. Any questions about that so far?
I just have one thing to add about the resume. Just from an employer perspective, I will say the resume is a great jumping off point to create your LinkedIn afterwards and make sure that everything's really streamlined and the most important things are listed on there. I've sat on quite a few interview panels, in the past couple of years, and I will tell you that people do look at your LinkedIn. So your resume is a great place to start if you don't have one already, to kind of just round out everything in your professional toolbox before you guys start applying to jobs out in the real world.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Emily. Use your resume as the way to help fill in your LinkedIn and vice versa. And also something we can help with. We will help you work on your LinkedIn, but sometimes people feel like, I don't even know what to put on my LinkedIn. Well, start with the kind of thing that you would put on your resume. That's where you represent yourself there. So thank you. Okay, so like I said, very quick overview, sorry, was there? Oh no, I thought there was a question. Was there? No, I'm good. Okay, cool. For this, I just wanted to go over a little bit of information about starting the internship and the job search. We really recommend starting out with Handshake. Again, that's the joinhandshake.ucsd, or ucsd.joinhandshake.com. And you should have access to that starting this summer already. So if you don't have access to it, just send our office an email. But basically what you can do there, in addition to signing up for the appointments and events that I talked about, you can look for internships and jobs. Like, it's a whole job listing, and I would actually start there because employers specifically are posting positions on UCSD's job search site on Handshake to look for UCSD students. So it's a really good place to start because they're already looking for you, essentially. So what you can do is you can filter things. There's an example here of where you can look and click on either if it's a full-time job, if you're at the point that you're graduating soon, or if you're looking just for internships, if you're looking for that. And another thing I always emphasize is on Handshake, it's important to fill out your profile as much as you can. You can click whether it's visible to employers or not, or visible to others, but the more you input into Handshake, the more information Handshake has to show you things that would be of interest. So it actually uses machine learning basically to tailor the experience for you. So if you fill out your profile and you say, what your major is and what your interests are and what kind of roles you're looking for, then over time with that information, plus with what kind of things you click on, what events and things, Handshake kind of learns more information about you in order to give you suggestions for events, for jobs, for internships that suit your interests. And the more information you put in your profile, the more accurate it is, essentially. So both, I would say, doing that search on internships, on the job search area, and completing your profile can really help with that. And if you do make it visible to employers, you can choose to do that. And then employers can actually search it and they can actually recruit you and, kind of take that step for you. So it helps in that way too. Any questions here? Okay, so like I said, feel free to put in the chat or unmute yourself. And I know my internet's a little bit weird, so if I talk over you, if I don't hear you, just like put in the chat and Emily will, or Jay or Mariana will see. Okay, so we have another poll. So this is one, let me try to, I'm gonna go back to stop sharing. So here, yeah, I think this would work best also with the reactions. So let's see. Let's go with thumbs up. So the first question I have is do you know what an informational interview is? So thumbs up if you do know what an informational interview is. Okay, good, because my next slide is going to tell you what that is. So, okay, helpful, thank you. And then the next question, so I'm assuming, I'm assuming the answer will be no, but it might actually be yes. But has anybody had an informational interview or what they think might be one? Okay, so you might answer that question differently when I go back to the slides. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen now. Okay, so basically, let me just go back to the next slide. Sorry, I'm like trying to, there we go. Okay, so essentially what I wanted to do is talk about informational interviews because essentially it is like I say here, it's the way to network in 2020, essentially. What an informational interview is, it sounds a lot more involved or formal than it is. And so as I'm talking through it, you might go, oh, I've done that, but maybe haven't thought of it in my head as an informational interview. But essentially what it is, it's a meeting where you can ask somebody who's in a job or, in a role that you're interested in, all about their job, all about their industry, how they got there. So you can figure out if it's a good fit for you. And if you decide that it is, how they got there, so then it can help you figure out how to get there as well. So it could be fairly formal. Back when we were, all in person, this could have been, maybe over coffee. It could have been more in a formal kind of meeting space. Or it could be just, right now, since we're all more, kind of at home, it can be just a quick phone call. It can be, a Zoom conversation. It can even be just a couple of questions by email if the person is really too busy to answer, to have a long phone conversation or answer a lot of questions. So essentially, there is something that, if you've ever had a conversation with somebody about their job and tried to figure out what it is they actually do on a daily basis and, how they got there, that's essentially an informational interview. We have a lot of information on our website about informational interviews. And later on, I'll show some resources where it includes sample questions you can ask, because it's hard to sometimes figure out what actual questions you want to ask people, but just think of it as giving you, like a lot of times if we do some Google research on a job, we get kind of the tip of the iceberg of what that job actually might look like. But think of the informational interview as the rest of the iceberg that tells you really what it's actually like to work there, because it might sound like you would be doing a lot of something, but actually you find out from that person or a couple of people that you would be doing something totally different. I know in my own situation, I thought that I wanted to go into a certain type of advising, not career advising necessarily, but I talked to people in the academic advising arena and realized at the kind of places I wanted to do that, I wouldn't actually get the kind of contact with students that I wanted to. They described it as being much more transactional and kind of based on paperwork. And I was like, oh, but I want to talk to students. I want to have appointments with students, where I hear from them. And I would not have figured that out if I hadn't had informational interviews. I would have just thought, well, it's advising. I'll be talking to people. But you just start to find out differences there when you do have informational interviews. And really, they're much more important now than ever. Like I said, it's the way to do things in 2020. We used to have networking events. We used to have in-person events that you just drop by and talk to people. But now with everything being more home-based, it's a lot more about individual connections. So again, going back to what Emily said at the beginning with getting to know donors, you're in a program already where you have a lot of kind of ready-made individual connections with other people in your CASP cohort, and all the people, the support people you have around you, and also those donors too. Thinking about like, how can you reach out to people and either find out information from them, or maybe people that they might know that could help you when you're eventually looking for an internship or job search. You can also find people, think about your friends, like I said, going back to, you never know who you meet in college. High school friends as well. I see where they've landed in a couple of years from now. Parents, friends of parents, those are really good sources as well. I know my sister, when I was applying for this role here, I never would have seen it because I was up in Riverside and I wasn't looking at a place that was too far for me to commute to. And I would have totally missed it if my sister had not sent me the job ad. So you just never know when family or friends or, somebody you randomly met is going to give you a tip about a job that you wouldn't have even heard about. So other ways to find people, I know that a lot of times once you know how to have an informational interview, you're not sure how to find people if you feel like you don't know anybody in your own network who could be helpful. If you do want to look outside of your own network, there we have a couple of sites. So we have Triton's Connect, which is just Triton's Connect, and Emily, correct, Emily, is it tritonsconnect.ucsd.edu?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, okay, so just Triton's Connect, one word.
Oh, just tritonsconnect.com.
Oh, .com, thank you, sorry about that. I'm so used to the .ucsd.
Yeah.
So it's just Triton's Connect, one word, .com. And that's a site, it's actually, it's fairly new, and it's an online alumni mentoring site where alumni actually sign up specifically with the idea that they'd like to mentor students and young alumni. So this is the perfect way to connect with people. You can search, oh, thank you for putting that in the chat. You can search for alumni who are in fields or at companies that you're interested in. And you can then reach out to them, and they're already, they've already expressed interest in helping. So it's a really good way to start reaching out to people. And it's free to sign up for an account. So again, just going to that, yeah, it looks like it's in the that chat. It's perfect. Thank you, Jay. Just go to that link, sign up your account, and you're ready to start talking to alumni. Similarly on LinkedIn, you can go to, just type in LinkedIn, search UCSD's page, scroll down a little bit on the page, and then get to the alumni part. And then just click on alumni and you'll find, we have nearly 200,000 alumni who are on LinkedIn. They're already connected to UCSD. They already feel that connection. So you can search, a job title or a company, or even something. I remember I was working with another career counselor, and they literally typed in sleeping, like just, okay, let's see what comes up. And we saw all these people who are like doing sleep research and, things like that. So, even just things off the cuff can lead you to roles that are potentially of interest. Just type in a keyword there and it'll come up with alumni from UCSD who work in those areas or have that in their profile. And then you can reach out to those people and say, hey, I'm a current UCSD student. I'm really interested in da 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 da, but I don't really know a lot of information. Would you have 15 or 20 minutes for a conversation about this? Or, I'm looking to these roles. I just applied at blah, 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 and I'm wondering if you might be able to tell me more about your experience working there. People do this all the time. It's very normal. It's even more normal now than it was 3 months ago, 4 months ago. So I'd really recommend doing this. Okay, so any questions at this point? Okay, so I know I'm going through a lot here. So look, definitely if you have any questions, stop me along the way. Okay, so I do want to just kind of round this out with some resources, and the links are here, and as well as they'll be in the slideshow. Like I said, there's just a ton of information that I went over today. It's kind of like the A to Z of things, and I don't want you to feel too overwhelmed. But just some general things to get you started. I want to just repeat that Handshake is really the central place to go to. So if you do nothing else, if you haven't signed up for a Handshake account, or if you haven't logged in, if you do nothing else today, then please just log into Handshake and spend a little bit of time exploring it. See what you can find there. There are online resources like Big Interview, which allows you to do mock interviews, or actually it allows you to answer questions and have like a virtual interview essentially with the computer. It'll record you, and then you can play it back and see, oh, how did I do there? How would I improve on this question? And all of that's for free if you go to Handshake resources. Again, events are listed there. You can schedule appointments. The jobs and internships are listed there. So Handshake is really like your main go-to place. Also, I know a lot of you are interested in working on campus, or on campus, whatever that might mean. It might be physically on campus. It might be virtually, but through on-campus employment. But all of that information is at studentemployment.ucsd.edu. And it'll tell you all about how to apply, how to find roles. Also, those are posted on Handshake. All of those roles are posted there. And just give some general information for starting out there. And then the Triton Career Guide. So when I was talking about those informational interviews and what are some example questions you can ask, the Triton Career Guide, oh, thank you, Jay, for posting that. The Triton Career Guide, you can find that on the career.ucsd.edu website, and I'll include the direct link in my my slides as well. In that it's basically the A to Z of the kind of grad school, job, and internship search. So it gives you resume information, it gives you sample informational interview questions, it even gives you a sample script for how to reach out to somebody you don't know, because I know for me, I always get nervous reaching out to somebody I don't know, so it helps kind of guide you and give you a sample email to write, so you can just kind of tailor it to your own purposes. And again, it talks you through, applying to grad school and things like that. So very helpful. You can just download it from the website. And like I said, I'll include the direct link in my slides later. So at this point, I think that's it in terms of the presentation, but we wanted to leave some time for questions because we know that, that's, we're presenting a lot of information here, and there are bound to be at least some questions. Oh, and thank you, Jay, for posting that link. So any questions? Let me actually stop this screen share, so then it might be a little easier for people to, oh, and also, yes, Jay, thank you for that. So there's the CASP Handshake tutorial. Thank you so much. That's helpful because I know that a lot of times people have trouble figuring out Handshake at first, and so that's wonderful to hear that there's a tutorial there. So yeah, I definitely recommend that. Any questions, either feel free to unmute or type it into chat, or whatever, however is easiest for you. And any question is good. No questions?
If we don't have any questions, yeah, I just wanted to reiterate one last thing. I think, Giulia, you mentioned earlier about, we do have an access to this specific pool of donors, Chancellor's Associate Scholarship recipients. You guys are a very special group of students who definitely have access to a group of donors that no one else does. I've been with the program for 3 years now, and we have anywhere between 300 and 500 donors a year, all of them who are willing to talk with you. So if you ever, are curious about where can I start, or is there anyone I know who I can talk to that may work in whatever industry, please feel free to reach out personally to me. I'm happy to look through our database and reach out on your behalf and connect the two of you and say, do you have half an hour to chat with a student? So that's a really easy place to start. The other really special group of people that you guys have access to are CASP alumni. The program is young. We started in 2013, but that means that there's 5 or 6 cohorts ahead of you guys who have graduated and are out in the real world. I've met with a few of them, and everyone's doing such incredible things out there, and they are always willing to give back, and I think they would love to talk with you guys. So being part of CASP definitely has additional resources that other students don't have. So I highly encourage you to take advantage, of those groups you do have access to. And for the questions portion, Giulia and I were chatting before this, if you even want to talk through, hey, this is my situation, or this is what I'm thinking about doing, like, we're happy to talk about those scenarios as well.
I actually did have a question.
Yeah, please.
Apologies if you've covered this. My attention span is horrible, unfortunately.
Well, you're doing a ton of things, so don't worry.
Because I know that there were physical job fairs. Are there any plans to have virtual job fairs?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So that is something that I wanted to really point out. We are having our events. So anything that we would have offered before, we're offering virtually as well, including the virtual fair. So we're actually just putting out our schedule within the next week or two of the job fairs that we'll be having starting in the fall quarter. So in October, basically, we'll have, and in fact, this year, typically we have one really big job fair per quarter. But this year, because of the virtual format, we're going to have a lot of smaller fairs. And what I mean is smaller, still the same number of employers, but smaller opportunities to network with the employers. So you'll see kind of a whole, industry specific set of things. So again, keep checking Handshake, keep looking at events, look at social media. We have a presence with the Career Center. It'll get put on there. Check your email. I know that's a thing people don't really do. That's so I don't know, 2000 or whatever. But we will let you know when we have those events through email too. So if you're not seeing it on Handshake, but yeah, any virtual fairs, information sessions, all of that throughout the year. Thank you. Other questions? Or are there scenarios that you want to kind of talk through and see if I could help with, or Emily could help with?
I did have, or it's not really like a question because I'm not sure what to ask, and it's like more specific in terms of like the psychology department. As I've heard that it's very what's the word, like it's a lot of students want like the psychology major, or they're in it, and I also heard that like getting close with the professors kind of helps after, like once you graduate, like kind of that networking. But I also wanted to ask if because I heard about that there's a like a therapist's office in UCSD.
Yes, yeah.
And if they're also part of like, if any of them are part of like CASP. I think earlier they mentioned that she was absent from like the first meeting. But if they're still open or available for like kind of like that advising or like informational interviews.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's such a good question. And it brings up, I think, yes, in some ways it's psychology specific, but it brings up some good points that I wanted to go over about how to find people. So thank you for that. Yeah, so there's not CASP, CAPS. So it's Counseling and Psychological Services. And they're all trained therapists. They've all gone to grad school, varying levels of it. And not only are they here for you, if you need help. And I know when I was in college, I used the counseling services all the time because college can be really stressful. So, I would say just reach out to them, and they're really, really helpful to all of our students. So for one thing, if you need help, if you just want to talk things through, you're stressed, contact their office on that level. But the other side, they're also happy to help people who want to go into professions like theirs. So I would absolutely say reach out to them. And similarly for any other professions you're interested in, maybe there are things on campus that do that kind of work, and staff, all the time, I'll get informational interview requests all the time. I'm sure, Emily, I'm sure too, just trying to figure out like, what do we do and how did we get there? So use people who are already here helping students for part of that network. And same with professors. Like even if, I know that there are a lot of majors that are really popular, and it could be hard to officially become part of that major or have that major. Professors don't care about that, so they're not gonna say, oh, I can't talk to you because you're not an official, whatever, fill in the blank major. They just want to talk to you because you're interested in their work, and they want to have an interesting conversation about that. So whether or not you're in their class, whether or not you're that major, reach out to professors who are doing interesting work that you'd like to hear more about. If people always joke like, oh, people love talking about themselves, but I would say the difference for professors is that they like talking about their work and their research more than they like talking about themselves. So if you have a question about anything they're doing, look at faculty bios on the websites, reach out, and I'm sure they'd either have like conversation on the phone with you, or you could attend their virtual office hours, in person once we're back to in person. Get to know anybody you can, whether it's specifically like part of what you should be doing with your coursework and what you're officially signed up for, or whether it's far outside of that. You never know what you'll find. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sure, thanks. Any other questions?
Not a question, but just to throw on to your point about connecting with professors, I realized informational interviews, that connects really well. UCSD, the colleges have a resource called Dine with the Prof or Coffee with the Prof. And I don't know if this is in your department, Giulia and Emily, but if y'all want to talk about it, or.
I've heard of it. We haven't organized it. I believe it might be part of student. Do you know, Emily, is it student affairs?
I think it's student affairs, so it doesn't fall under Giulia and my department, but Dine with a Prof and Coffee with a Prof is a really fantastic program. So for those, I guess you guys haven't gone to campus yet, but we do have something called the Faculty Club. It's right in the center of campus, and it's where professors can kind of go and hang out. They can eat lunch there. And there is a program that you can sign up for to eat lunch with them or grab coffee with them. And that is a wonderful way to get to know a professor, ask them questions, try to get that recommendation letter, or even do an informational interview. You know, a lot of the times they haven't just been a professor their whole life. They've either worked other jobs or worked with folks who are in the real world and are well connected. So thanks, Jay. That's a great program that I don't think enough students take advantage of. And it's quite easy to sign up.
Yeah, and I imagine they'll do a virtual version of it because everything,
Yeah.
we've all, ever since spring, we've been converting everything we're doing online. So I would say look out for announcements about virtual versions.
Yeah.
And if they end up,
Keep going.
I was gonna say, if they end up bringing back the physical version, it's basically, they're like coupons, and they pay for your entire, both you and the professor's entire coffee order or your meal. So it's a great opportunity, and it's free.
Yeah,
And the food's good.
The only other thing that I'll say is I know that there are quite a few transfer students here, which I think is wonderful. Personally, I love working with transfer students. I feel like you guys bring so much life experience to the table. But, you know, I will say make a virtual appointment as soon as possible at the Career Center. Can't stress that enough. 2 years is a different beast than 4 years. And after working with Giulia and a few other colleagues at the Career Center, they're wonderful people and a wonderful team to work with and so helpful, even if you're not sure what you want to do or only have a vague idea, just so you can know about all the resources that are available to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I will say that personally, my own favorite appointments, and I know that's the same for my colleagues, some of our favorite appointments are the ones where people are like, I have no idea where do I start. So you don't need to know, you know, like our bread and butter is not the resume review. Our bread and butter is the person who comes in and doesn't know where to go next, and we want to help you along the way. So. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, any final things? And I think the session, was it supposed to end at 2:45 or is it 3?
2:45.
Okay, so everybody has their next thing to go to. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for staying on this call. I know you have many other things you could have chosen. So thank you. Feel free to reach out at any point. Like I said, go to our Career Center website. We also have our staff bios on the page too. You can reach out directly there, or you can just email careercenter@ucsd.edu. But like I said, go to Handshake, make an appointment, even if it's just to find out more about what we do and you're not sure where to start. So yes, and welcome to UCSD. Congratulations. This is just such an amazing, an amazing time, and we're so excited for you and excited to have you. So, thank you for all your work, and thank you for joining all of us.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you.
And I'll stay on for a few minutes if there are some questions. How to do that, but I don't know, Jay and Mariana, if you have to